I need you to pause whatever you are doing right now and lean in, because what I'm about to share is not casual, it is not symbolic, and it is not something you can afford to brush aside. This week carries a sign, not a coincidence, not random timing, a sign, and I say this with a trembling sense of responsibility. Jesus warned me that seniors, those standing at the edge of transition, those about to step into the next chapter of life, must not ignore what is unfolding right now. There is something happening in this very week that is spiritual in nature. It may look ordinary on the surface. It may appear like just another set of decisions, deadlines, conversations, or internal struggles. But beneath it is a divine signal, and those who dismiss it will regret it. I don't say that to alarm you. I say it because love warns, truth interrupts, and heaven does not whisper without purpose. Many of you feel it already, a stirring, an unease, a sense that something is shifting. Doors feel like they are closing. Others feel like they are opening too quickly. Emotions are heightened. Decisions feel heavier than usual. Conversations carry unexpected weight. This is not accidental. Seniors are standing at a spiritual intersection, and this week is a marker. Some of you think this is just about graduation, about careers, about college applications, about relationships. It's deeper than that. This is about alignment. This is about whether you will move forward guided by clarity or drift forward pulled by pressure. This week holds a test, a revealing, a refining. And if you miss the sign, you may not recognize the consequences until months, maybe years down the road. The regret won't come immediately. That's the subtle part. It will come quietly when you realize you moved forward without discernment, when you recognize you ignored conviction, when you silence that inner voice that was trying to protect you. But here's the beautiful part. The warning itself is mercy. You are not being left unaware. You are not being set up to fail. You are being invited to pay attention. Stay with me through this message because I'm going to unpack exactly what this week's sign is, how to recognize it, and what response is required. This is not about fear. It's about readiness. It's about stepping into your next season with confidence instead of confusion. If you are a senior, this message is for you. If you love a senior, this message is for you. And if you have felt that something unusual is happening this week, spiritually, emotionally, internally, then you already know this is not random. Do not ignore the sign, because what you do in response to it will shape the direction of your next season. There are moments in life that feel ordinary on the surface but carry extraordinary weight in the spirit. This week is one of those moments. It may look like just another stretch of days filled with assignments, conversations, deadlines, celebrations, and decisions about the future. But beneath the surface, something deeper is taking place. For seniors especially, this week is not random. It is a spiritual intersection, a crossroads where direction is quietly being determined. A crossroads is a place of decision. It is where one path divides into two, sometimes subtly, sometimes dramatically. And the thing about crossroads is that you often don't realize how significant they were until much later. You look back and think, that was the moment. That was when everything shifted. This week carries that kind of weight. The choices you are making, the attitudes you are nurturing, the voices you are listening to, they are not small. They are aligning you with a direction. Some of you feel the tension of it. You sense that things feel heightened. Emotions may be stronger than usual. Confusion may be louder. Or perhaps there is an unexpected clarity pressing on your heart. That inner stirring is not coincidence. When you approach transition, heaven pays attention. The final stretch of one season and the beginning of another is always spiritually charged because identity is being solidified and direction is being set. At a spiritual intersection, there are always two competing pulls. One is the pull of pressure, expectations from family, friends, culture, fear of missing out, fear of falling behind. The other is the pull of purpose, quieter, steadier, often requiring courage and patience. Pressure rushes, purpose anchors. Pressure demands quick approval. Purpose invites thoughtful obedience. This week you are being asked to discern which voice is guiding you. Crossroads also reveal what is truly inside you. When the road divides, what you value most determines the direction you take. If validation is your compass, you will move toward what pleases others. If fear is your compass, you will move toward what feels safest. But if faith is your compass, you will move toward what brings peace. even if it is unfamiliar. This week is revealing your compass. The intersection is not only about external decisions like where you will study, work, or live. It is also about internal posture. Will you step into your next season carrying bitterness from this one? Will you bring unresolved comparison, insecurity, or pride with you? Or will you pause, reflect, and release what no longer belongs in your future? Crossroads are not just about direction, they are about preparation. What makes this week different is that it is compressed. Decisions and realizations are surfacing quickly. Conversations are happening that clarify relationships. Opportunities are presenting themselves that test your motives. Even delays or obstacles are part of the intersection. Sometimes a closed door at a crossroads is protection, not rejection. Sometimes a sudden opportunity is a test, not a blessing. Discernment is required. You may not see flashing signs pointing left or right. The sign is internal. It is the quiet awareness that something is being decided. It is the sense that this week matters more than most. And the danger at any crossroads is autopilot, moving forward simply because the crowd is moving, or because momentum feels easier than reflection. But intersections demand attention. They require slowing down long enough to ask, is this aligned? Is this wise? Is this true to who I am becoming? Because when you leave this intersection, you will not return to it in the same way. The path you choose now begins shaping habits, relationships, and identity patterns that extend far beyond this week. The spiritual weight of this moment is not about drama. It is about direction, alignment, and awareness of where your steps are actually taking you. The sign most will miss this week will not arrive with thunder or spectacle. It will not interrupt your day with dramatic clarity or undeniable force. It will come quietly, almost gently, and that is why so many will overlook it. God often speaks in whispers, not shouts. And when you are standing at a spiritual intersection, the sign is rarely external, it is internal. For some of you, the sign is conviction, a sudden awareness that something you were about to say, do, or decide does not sit right in your spirit. It may feel like hesitation. It may feel like a pause you cannot explain. That pause is not weakness. It is guidance. Conviction is one of the most merciful forms of direction. It does not condemn, it redirects. But when ignored repeatedly, conviction grows quieter, not because it disappears, but because we train ourselves not to hear it. For others, the sign is resistance. Plans that seemed smooth are suddenly complicated. Doors you assumed would open easily now feel uncertain. You may interpret this as frustration or bad timing, but sometimes resistance is revelation. Not every obstacle is opposition. Sometimes it is protection. Sometimes what feels like delay is divine interruption, sparing you from stepping into something misaligned. The sign is not the difficulty itself, but how your spirit reacts to it. Does the resistance bring panic, or does it bring a subtle sense that you are being redirected? The sign may also appear as unexpected clarity. In the middle of confusion, one truth stands out sharply. One conversation shifts your perspective. One moment alone brings undeniable awareness about a relationship, a decision, or a path. Clarity often arrives quietly, but it carries weight. It does not need to shout because it resonates deeply. The challenge is that clarity sometimes asks you to choose differently than you planned. And when clarity disrupts comfort, many choose comfort instead. Another form of the sign is unease, a restlessness that surfaces when you imagine moving forward with a certain decision. Everything may look good on paper. Others may approve. It may even seem logical. But internally there is a lack of peace. That absence is not random. Peace is often the confirmation of alignment. When peace withdraws, it is an invitation to reevaluate. Yet unease is easy to silence. Distraction numbs it. Busyness buries it. External validation drowns it out. The subtlety of the sign is intentional. It reveals who is attentive. Those who are spiritually awake will recognize the shift. Those who are distracted will move past it without reflection. This week, the sign will not force you to respond. It will invite you. It will test whether you are listening beneath the noise of expectation, comparison, and urgency. You might notice it in conversations, a comment that lingers longer than it should, a question someone asks that exposes something you were avoiding. You might notice it in your emotions, heightened sensitivity, sudden reflection, deeper awareness of what truly matters. These are not random fluctuations. They are indicators, signals. The reason most will miss the sign is because it does not align with the speed of culture. Everything around you says move quickly, decide now, secure your future immediately. But spiritual signs often require stillness to interpret. They require courage to obey. They require humility to admit that something needs adjusting. This week, the sign will not announce itself loudly. It will appear through conviction, resistance, clarity, or unease. It will test whether you are operating on autopilot or awareness. It will ask whether you are willing to pause long enough to discern what is actually being revealed beneath the surface of ordinary moments. One of the most defining battles at this stage of life is the battle between pressure and peace. They can feel similar at first glance because both create intensity, both demand a response, both push you toward decision, but they come from very different sources, and they lead to very different outcomes. Pressure is loud. It rushes you. It tells you that if you don't decide now, you will fall behind. It measures your worth against timelines, achievements, and comparisons. Pressure often sounds like expectation, what your family hopes for, what your friends are choosing, what society celebrates. It convinces you that urgency equals importance. And for seniors standing at the edge of transition, pressure can feel overwhelming because everything seems time-sensitive. Peace is different. Peace is steady. It does not shout. It does not compete. It does not demand applause or validation. Peace often requires you to slow down when everything around you is accelerating. It may guide you toward a path that looks less impressive on the surface but feels deeply aligned internally. Peace is not the absence of challenge. It is the presence of clarity even within challenge. The danger is that pressure can mimic purpose. It can disguise itself as ambition or responsibility. You might tell yourself you are being practical, strategic, or realistic, when in reality you are reacting to fear of disappointing someone, fear of missing out, fear of uncertainty. Pressure feeds on comparison. It grows stronger when you scroll through other people's announcements, acceptance letters, plans, and milestones. It whispers that your timeline must mirror theirs. Peace, however, is personal. It does not compare. It is rooted in alignment rather than appearance. You can step into something difficult and still carry peace if it is right for you. And you can step into something impressive and still feel unsettled if it is wrong for you. That distinction is critical this week. Many regrets are born not from rebellion but from pressure. Decisions made to satisfy expectations instead of conviction often feel justified in the moment. They make sense logically. They earn approval. But over time, misalignment reveals itself. You may wake up months or years later feeling disconnected from your own path, wondering why success feels empty or why progress feels forced. That is the quiet consequence of choosing pressure over peace. Pressure also creates urgency without reflection. It convinces you that slowing down is weakness, but reflection is strength. Taking time to ask, "Why am I choosing this?" is not hesitation. It is wisdom. If the honest answer is, "Because everyone expects me to," that is pressure speaking. If the answer is, "Because this feels aligned with who I am becoming," that is peace guiding you. This week, you may feel both forces pulling at you. Opportunities may arise that look impressive but feel heavy. Conversations may push you toward quick commitments. Deadlines may compress your ability to think clearly. In the middle of it all, peace will still be available, but it will require intentional listening. It will require tuning out comparison long enough to hear your own internal compass. Peace does not eliminate fear entirely. Sometimes the peaceful choice still involves uncertainty. The difference is that fear does not dominate the decision. Instead, there's a grounded sense of rightness, even if the path ahead is unfamiliar. Pressure creates anxiety-driven motion. Peace creates anchored movement. If you learn to distinguish these two forces now, you will avoid one of the most common sources of long-term regret. Not because every peaceful choice guarantees ease, but because it guarantees alignment. And alignment sustains you in ways that external approval never can. One of the most deceptive aspects of misalignment is that regret rarely arrives immediately. It does not announce itself the moment you make a pressured decision or ignore a quiet warning. In fact, it often stays silent at first. You move forward. Life continues. On the surface, everything appears fine. This is why delayed regret is so dangerous, because by the time you feel it, the pattern has already been set. When you ignore a spiritual nudge, nothing dramatic may happen that day. You may even feel relief that the decision is made, relief that expectations are satisfied, relief that the tension of uncertainty has passed. But beneath that relief, something subtle shifts. A small compromise in alignment, a quiet dismissal of conviction, a habit of overriding peace with practicality. That small shift, repeated over time, becomes direction. Regret grows gradually. It begins as a faint question in the back of your mind. Why does this feel heavier than I expected? Why do I feel disconnected from what I once felt certain about? It may surface during quiet moments, late at night, during a drive, in the middle of an achievement that should feel fulfilling, but somehow feels incomplete. Delayed regret does not scream, it lingers. The reason this matters so deeply at a crossroads is because seniors are not just making temporary choices. You are establishing trajectories. The path you choose shapes the people you meet, the habits you build, the environments you inhabit, and the identity you reinforce. One ignored sign may not seem significant, but it can place you on a road that requires far more correction later. Correction is always possible, but it is rarely simple. Adjusting direction after months or years of momentum demands courage, humility, and sometimes loss. That is why awareness now is mercy. It is far easier to shift at the intersection than to attempt a U-turn miles down the road. Delayed regret is painful not because change is impossible, but because clarity came earlier and was dismissed. There is also a subtle internal cost to ignoring spiritual nudges. Each time you override conviction, it becomes slightly easier to do so again. Sensitivity dulls. What once felt clearly wrong begins to feel normal. What once stirred unease becomes familiar. This is how misalignment becomes comfortable. And comfort in misalignment is far more dangerous than obvious rebellion because it feels justified. Delayed regret often disguises itself as burnout, dissatisfaction, or unexplained restlessness. You may interpret it as stress or circumstance when in reality it traces back to a moment when you sensed a warning and chose convenience instead. It is not about punishment, it is about cause and effect. Direction determines destination. Small directional shifts compound over time. This week, the weight of your decisions may not feel dramatic. That is precisely why attentiveness is required. The absence of immediate consequence does not equal the absence of impact. You can ignore peace today and still move forward successfully in the eyes of others. But success without alignment carries a quiet cost. Regret is rarely about a single catastrophic choice. It is about a series of small ignored signals, a pattern of choosing pressure over peace, a habit of silencing inner clarity for external validation. And by the time regret fully forms, the distance between who you are and who you were meant to become can feel significant. Awareness now prevents accumulation later. Reflection now prevents correction under pressure later. Listening now protects direction later. Because delayed regret does not erase the past. It reveals that the sign was present, the warning was felt, and the intersection was real long before the consequences became visible. When a sign is recognized, response becomes the defining factor. Awareness without action changes nothing. Clarity without movement preserves comfort, but forfeits growth. This week is not just about noticing what is stirring within you, it is about what you choose to do with it. Immediate realignment is powerful because it interrupts drift before it becomes distance. Realignment begins with humility. It requires admitting that something may need adjusting. Perhaps a decision was being rushed. Perhaps a commitment was being made for the wrong reasons. Perhaps a relationship or mindset was being carried forward out of familiarity rather than alignment. Humility allows you to pause and say, I need to reassess. That pause is not weakness, it is wisdom. It creates space for clarity to replace assumption. There is protection in immediate correction. When you respond quickly to unease or conviction, you prevent small missteps from becoming entrenched patterns. Think of it like adjusting your course by a few degrees before traveling too far. A slight shift now can prevent miles of redirection later. Realignment is rarely dramatic. It may be as simple as delaying a decision, seeking counsel, having an honest conversation, or spending intentional time in reflection instead of reacting impulsively. Protection does not mean the path becomes effortless. It means you move forward anchored rather than anxious. When you realign promptly, you carry confidence that your next step is thoughtful rather than reactive. That confidence stabilizes you when challenges arise. Doubt loses its grip because you know you responded with integrity. Even if the road is difficult, you are not second-guessing the foundation beneath you. Immediate realignment also strengthens discernment. Every time you act on clarity, your sensitivity sharpens. You begin to trust your internal compass because you see the fruit of listening. Patterns of awareness form. You recognize pressure faster. You distinguish peace more clearly. Obedience builds perception. The more you respond promptly, the more aligned your instincts become with wisdom. There is also a ripple effect. When one senior chooses realignment, it influences others. Courage is contagious. When someone steps back from pressure-driven decisions and chooses peace instead, it gives others permission to reflect as well. Your response this week may not only shape your direction, but quietly model discernment for those watching you. Realignment may involve uncomfortable conversations. It may require disappointing expectations. It may demand patience while others seem to move ahead quickly. But protection is not always visible immediately. Sometimes it is revealed in what you avoid: misaligned partnerships, unnecessary burnout, misplaced identity. The benefit of realignment often appears later as stability, clarity, and sustained purpose. This week offers a rare opportunity to course correct before momentum locks in. Momentum is powerful. Once you commit publicly or emotionally to a path, it becomes harder to step back. Immediate action prevents unnecessary entanglement. It preserves flexibility. It keeps your future responsive rather than rigid. Realignment is not about perfection. It is about attentiveness. It is about choosing awareness over autopilot. It is about honoring the internal signal instead of overriding it. And when you respond quickly, you step into your next season lighter, clearer, and more anchored in who you are becoming rather than who you felt pressured to be.